to the reality revolution. Close your eyes for a moment. Now imagine your life exactly as it is right now, with one difference: you have 10 times the wealth you currently possess. Feel that reality. The security, the freedom, the possibilities. Now open your eyes. What changed? Nothing in your physical environment shifted, yet for a moment, you inhabited a different reality, one that felt as real as this one. Here's a thought experiment. What if I told you there is no fundamental difference between that imagined prosperity and your current financial situation? What if both are equally real or equally dreamlike? How do you know you're not dreaming right now? We assume we are awake because our experience feels solid, consistent, governed by rules. But consider this. When you dream at night, doesn't the dream feel completely real while you're in it? Don't dream objects seem solid? Don't dream experiences evoke real emotions? When you're dreaming, do you know you're dreaming? In a dream, you might find yourself in a mansion with unlimited wealth, and it feels absolutely real. Then you wake up to your current life circumstances. But what if this too is a dream? Just a more consistent collective one. What if prosperity isn't something you achieve in the world, but something you awaken to in consciousness? Consider the evidence that reality functions more like a dream than we realize. First, the physical world isn't as solid as it appears. Quantum physics shows us that at the subatomic level, particles exist as probability waves until observed. Matter is mostly empty space. The solid objects you see around you, your desk, your phone, your wallet, are primarily emptiness, held together by energy fields. Their solidity is an illusion created by your perceptual system. Second, your perception creates your reality. You don't see the world as it is. You see a mental reconstruction based on a tiny fraction of available information. Your eyes detect a narrow band of electromagnetic radiation. Your ears register a limited range of sound frequencies. Your brain fills in gaps, makes predictions, and constructs a seamless experience that feels complete, but it's actually a highly edited, personalized version of reality. Have you ever noticed how two people can experience the same event entirely differently? One person sees an opportunity, another sees a threat. One remembers details the other completely missed. If reality were objective and solid, wouldn't we all perceive it identically? Third, the boundary between imagination and reality is thinner than we think. Brain scans show that imagining an action activates many of the same neural pathways as actually performing it. Visualization practices can measurably improve physical performance. Placebo effects demonstrate that believing something is happening in your body can actually make it happen. Fourth, our experience of time is not linear or consistent. When you're engaged in something you love, hours pass like minutes. When you are suffering, seconds stretch into eternities. In dreams, entire lifetimes can unfold in minutes of sleep. Einstein himself said the distinction between past, present, and a future is a stubbornly persistent illusion. What does all this have to do with prosperity? Everything. Because if reality functions like a dream, responsive to consciousness, malleable to belief, constructed through perception, then prosperity isn't primarily about actions in the physical world, about what you're investing in. It's about the consciousness from which those actions emerge. In the same way that a lucid dreamer can transform their dream environment by recognizing its true nature, you can transform your prosperity reality by recognizing the dreamlike aspects of existence. This is not about denying the physical world or suggesting that material conditions aren't real or significant. It's about understanding the deeper mechanics of how reality operates and working with those principles rather than against them. Think about money itself. What is it really? Is a dollar bill inherently valuable? Is the number in your bank account anything more than a shared agreement? The entire global economy runs on collective beliefs, dreams we've all agreed to share. Throughout history, humans have assigned value to shells, beads, metal discs, pieces of paper, and now digital numbers on screens. None of these objects have inherent value. Their worth exists in the dream of agreement we collectively maintain. So what happens when you begin to recognize that prosperity is not something external to you, something to chase or achieve, but rather an aspect of the dream that you're already dreaming? What becomes possible when you realize that the same consciousness that creates your ordinary reality can create your prosperity reality? What shifts when you understand that the barriers between you and abundance might be nothing more than dream constructs, beliefs, expectations, and perceptual filters that can be changed? These are the questions we'll explore in this journey into the prosperity dream, not as abstract philosophy, but as practical principles for transforming your relationship with abundance. Because once you recognize that you're dreaming, you can begin to dream lucidly, and once you dream lucidly, you can transform the dream. To understand prosperity as a dream, we first need to understand the dreamlike nature of reality itself. Let's explore how the architecture of our experience resembles a dream more than the solid, objective world we think we inhabit. Every night when you sleep, your mind creates entire worlds. Without any external input, your consciousness generates landscapes, people, conversations, emotions, even physical sensations, all from within. These dream creations feel as real as waking life while you're experiencing them. What if your waking consciousness is doing something similar, just with different parameters? Consider this: you never experience reality directly. Everything you perceive comes through the filter of your senses and is then interpreted by your brain. The colors you see aren't inherent properties of objects. They're your visual system's interpretation of different wavelengths of light. The sounds you hear are your auditory system's translation of air pressure variations. What you call reality is actually a translation, an interpretation, a representation, not the thing itself. Neuroscientists estimate that your brain receives about 11 million bits of information per second from your environment. But your conscious mind can only process about 50 bits per second. This means your conscious experience represents less than 0.00005% of the available information. The rest is filtered out based on your beliefs about what's important, what's relevant, what fits your existing model of reality. In other words, you don't see what's there, you see what you believe is there, just like in a dream. The solid objects you interact with daily are mostly empty space. If the nucleus of an atom were the size of a marble, the electrons would be over a mile away. The solidness you experience is actually electromagnetic repulsion between fields of energy, not matter colliding with matter. Your sense of being a separate self located in your body is another dreamlike construction. Where exactly are you located? In your head? In your heart? Your entire body? What parts of you could be removed while still leaving you intact? The boundaries we draw between self and not self are just mental constructs, not ultimate realities. Even your experience of time, perhaps the most fundamental aspect of waking reality, has dreamlike qualities. Time speeds up and slows down depending on your emotional state. New studies have shown that we actually control whether time is going fast or slow within our mind. When you're fully absorbed in an activity, time can disappear entirely. Memory creates an illusory continuity, stitching together discrete memories into a seemingly unbroken narrative. Just as your mind creates continuity in dreams despite their fragmentary nature, we navigate daily life through shared agreements about what's real. Money, property rights, national borders, social hierarchies, none of these exist in the physical world. They're collective dream constructs maintained through shared belief. Change the belief, and the reality changes. Take money as an example. A dollar bill has value only because we collectively agree it does. Nothing about the physical paper gives it inherent worth. In fact, most money doesn't even exist physically. It's digital information in banking systems, a shared dream of numbers representing value. Ancient wisdom traditions have recognized this dreamlike nature of reality for millennia. In Buddhist philosophy, the concept of Maya describes the illusory nature of the phenomenal world. It doesn't mean nothing exists, but rather that what exists isn't what it appears to be. The Taoist sage Zhuangzi famously wondered whether he was a man dreaming of being a butterfly or a butterfly dreaming of being a man, recognizing the fluid boundary between dreamer and dreamed. Hindu Advaita Vedanta teaches that the ultimate reality, Brahman, dreams the world into existence through its creative power of Maya. Indigenous traditions worldwide speak of reality as a dream or vision maintained through consciousness. What these diverse traditions share is the recognition that what we call reality is more like a waking dream than an objective fixed world independent of consciousness. So what does this have to do with prosperity? If reality functions like a dream, created through consciousness, maintained by belief, experienced through perception, then the principles that govern dreams also govern your prosperity. In a dream, your experience is shaped not by external rules, but by internal expectations. Objects and situations respond to your consciousness, not to physical laws. The dream environment reflects your mental and emotional state. What if prosperity operates the same way? What if your financial reality isn't governed primarily by external economic forces, but by the consciousness from which you engage those forces? That's why I do these activations every day, because I'm trying to awaken you within your prosperity dream. What if the landscape of abundance or scarcity you navigate isn't fixed and objective, but responsive to your deep beliefs, expectations, and perceptual filters? This isn't about magical thinking or denying the existence of economic systems. It's recognizing that those systems themselves are dream constructs, collective agreements that can be engaged from different levels of consciousness with dramatically different results. Understanding the dream architecture of reality is the first step to becoming lucid in your prosperity dream. Because once you recognize that the structures you've taken as fixed and external are actually malleable and participatory, you can begin to engage with them as a conscious creator rather than a passive subject. Let's explore how to recognize when you're caught in a prosperity dream that is not serving you, and how to wake up within that dream to create a new financial reality. How can you recognize that the prosperity reality you're experiencing is a dream? What are the telltale signs that you're not experiencing objective economic laws, but rather a consciousness-created experience? Let's explore the evidence hiding in plain sight. First, consider the glitches in your financial reality. Those moments when the rules you think govern prosperity suddenly don't apply. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to violate the supposed laws of financial success? They break all the conventional rules, yet still prosper abundantly. Meanwhile, others meticulously follow every prescribed step and struggle to make progress. Think about unexpected windfalls that appear just when you need them most. The check that arrives the day before a major bill is due. the surprise opportunity that emerges after a financial setback, the inheritance, gift, or refund that comes out of nowhere. Or consider those moments when your financial situation changes dramatically without any proportional changes in your actions. Periods where the same efforts that previously yielded minimal results suddenly create abundant returns. Or conversely, times when strategies that worked reliably in the past inexplicably stopped working. These discontinuities reveal something important. The relationship between action and result in the prosperity realm is not mechanical or linear. It doesn't follow the predictable physics of cause and effect. It follows dream logic, responding to consciousness rather than behavior alone. Second, examine the malleable nature of financial memory and time. Notice how your perception of your financial past shifts depending on your current state. When you're experiencing abundance, you tend to remember and emphasize past successes. When struggling, the same history gets rewritten to highlight failures and setbacks. Consider how your sense of financial time fluctuates. A month of financial stress can feel like a year. Years of steady growth can seem to pass in a moment. Your subjective experience of financial time has little to do with clock time. And what about those strange gaps in financial awareness? The purchases you don't remember making when you review your statements, the income you forgot about until tax time, the expenses that seem to materialize from nowhere. These memory glitches reveal the dreamlike construction of your financial narrative. Third, notice how the observer effect operates in your prosperity experience. What you focus on in your financial life expands and becomes more detailed, more real. When you track your expenses carefully, you become more aware of spending patterns. When you count your blessings, evidence of abundance multiplies. When you dwell on lack, proof of scarcity accumulates. This isn't just psychological, it's the fundamental mechanics of dream reality. In dreams, what you place your attention on develops and elaborates. What you ignore becomes vague and may disappear entirely. Your prosperity reality works the same way. Have you noticed how different your financial situation looks depending on the lens through which you view it? A scarcity lens finds evidence of not enough, everywhere. An abundance lens reveals overlooked resources and opportunities. Same circumstances, entirely different experiences, just like shifting perspectives within a dream. Fourth, and perhaps most telling, are the synchronicities that appear in your prosperity experience. Those moments when you think about a financial need and a solution appears unexpectedly. The conversation about a business idea that leads to a meeting, the perfect partner or investor, the book or article that answers your financial question just as you're asking it. In a conventional understanding of reality, these would be dismissed as coincidences, but in a dreamlike reality, they reveal something profound. The interconnectedness between consciousness and experience, between inner state and outer circumstance. Remember that in dreams, environments and events emerge from the dreamer's consciousness. Dream characters and situations aren't random. They reflect aspects of the dreamer's mind. Similarly, the financial circumstances, opportunities, and challenges you encounter aren't separate from your consciousness, they're expressions of it. This doesn't mean you can simply wish for $1 million and have it appear instantly. Dream reality operates through deeper patterns than surface thoughts or wishes, but it does mean that your prosperity circumstances are more responsive to consciousness than to mechanical actions alone. The conventional economic narrative tells us that prosperity results from a linear sequence. Education leads to skills, which lead to value creation, which leads to compensation, which leads to wealth accumulation. It presents prosperity as an external achievement, something you build in the world through effort, struggle, and strategy. But when you recognize the dreamlike nature of reality, you see that prosperity operates by different principles. It's not primarily built, it's awakened to. It emerges not from what you do, but from the consciousness from which you do it. This is why two people can take identical actions with dramatically different results. It's why effort and reward often seem disconnected. It's why conventional Financial advice works for some and fails for others. Once you recognize these signs that your prosperity experience is dreamlike in nature, you can begin to work with it differently. Instead of trying to manipulate external circumstances alone, you can address the consciousness that is creating those circumstances. Let's examine the most powerful collective dream humans have ever created: money itself. What exactly is money? We treat it as something solid and real, but what is it actually? Throughout history, humans have assigned the concept of value to an astonishing array of objects: shells, beads, salt, cattle, metal, coins, paper bills, and now digital numbers in banking systems. None of these objects have inherent financial value. Their worth exists solely in our agreement with what they represent. A $100 bill is chemically almost identical to a $1 bill. The difference in value exists in our collective dream agreement. Change the agreement and the value changes instantly. Consider what happened when countries like Germany in the 20s or Zimbabwe in the 2000s experienced hyperinflation. Overnight, the dream agreement changed, and money that could buy you a house one day couldn't purchase a loaf of bread the next. Nothing about the physical currency changed, only the collective dream about its value. Digital currency makes the dreamlike nature of money even more apparent. Most of the money in existence today doesn't physically exist. It's electronic information, symbols on screens representing agreements about value. When you make an online purchase, no physical object changes hands. Only information shifts from one database to another. Cryptocurrency takes this a step further, creating entirely new forms of value through collective agreement, often without any central authority at all. The value of Bitcoin or Ethereum exists purely because enough people agree they have value. It's a dream made manifest through shared belief. Even the concept of ownership is a dream agreement. When you own something, a house, car, investments, what you actually possess is a socially recognized right to control that thing, backed by a legal document, themselves just paper with agreed upon meaning and social agreements. During the 2008 financial crisis, complex financial instruments like mortgage-backed securities revealed how divorced from physical reality our economic systems have become. Trillions of dollars of value appeared and disappeared, not because anything changed in the physical world, but because the collective agreements and perception shifted. The stock market provides perhaps the clearest example of wealth as a dream construct. When a company's stock price rises or falls dramatically based on quarterly earnings reports, analyst recommendations, or market sentiment, nothing about the company's physical assets or operations has necessarily changed. What changes is the collective dream about its value. This dreamlike nature of money and wealth is not a new insight. Philosophical traditions have long recognized it. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle distinguished between natural wealth, actual useful objects, and artificial wealth, money, noting that the latter has value only by social convention. Buddhist economics distinguishes between actual well-being and symbolic representations of wealth, warning against confusing the map, money, with the territory, true prosperity. Indigenous economies worldwide historically operated through gift exchange and reciprocity rather than accumulated symbolic wealth, recognizing that true value lies in relationships and regenerative capacity, not abstract symbols. Understanding money and wealth as dream constructs doesn't make them less real or important. Dreams have real effects, especially when collectively shared, but it does change how you might relate to prosperity. If money is fundamentally a dream symbol rather than a physical resource, then prosperity operates according to dream physics, not material physics. The principles that govern how money flows into and out of your life have more in common with how dreams function than with how physical objects behave. In a dream, environments respond to your consciousness. The same is true with prosperity. Your financial environment responds not just to your actions, but to your conscious and unconscious beliefs, expectations, and perceptions about wealth. In a dream, impossibilities become possible when you recognize you're dreaming. Similarly, financial impossibilities can transform when you recognize the dreamlike nature of economic reality. This understanding helps explain why prosperity operates so differently from what conventional economics would predict. Why do some people who work incredibly hard struggle financially, while others who seem to exert minimal effort prosper abundantly? Why do identical business strategies succeed brilliantly for one person and fail completely for another? Why do some people consistently experience lucky financial breaks, while others face one setback after another? Why do financial fortunes sometimes change dramatically without any proportional change in behavior or strategy? These patterns make no sense if prosperity operates according to objective mechanical laws, but they make perfect sense if prosperity functions like a dream, responsive to consciousness rather than just behavior. This doesn't mean effort, strategy, and action are irrelevant. Even in lucid dreams, you still act within the dream, but recognizing the dreamlike nature of prosperity shifts where you place your focus, from manipulating external circumstances alone to also addressing the consciousness from which those circumstances emerge. While we all participate in the collective dream of money and value, each of us also experiences a personal prosperity dream, a unique relationship with abundance shaped by our individual consciousness. Let's explore how your personal belief systems, patterns, and perceptual filters create the financial reality you experience. Consider the role of belief systems as prosperity filters. From early childhood, you've absorbed messages about money, wealth, and abundance. Some came from explicit teachings, what your parents, teachers, or religious leaders told you about prosperity. Others came from implicit observations, what you witnessed in your family and community. These beliefs formed the foundation of your prosperity dream, creating filters through which you perceive and interpret financial reality. They determine what opportunities you notice or ignore, what actions feel available or unavailable, what results seem possible or impossible. Common prosperity beliefs include that money requires hard work and sacrifice, that there's not enough to go around, or rich people are greedy, unethical, or lucky, or I don't deserve abundance, or money is spiritual and unspiritual, or financial security comes from saving, investing, entrepreneurship, or my worth is tied to my financial success. These beliefs aren't just thoughts, they're dream constructs that shape your financial experience at a fundamental level. They operate like the physics of your prosperity dream, determining what's possible and how things work. In a night dream, if you believe you can't fly, you won't be able to fly, even though flying is perfectly possible in dreams. Similarly, in your prosperity dream, if you believe certain kinds of abundance are impossible for you, those paths remain closed, not because of external limitations, but because your dream doesn't allow them. Notice how your beliefs create self-fulfilling prophecies in your financial life. If you believe money requires sacrificing health or relationships, you'll create circumstances that force that choice. If you believe wealth only comes through struggle, you'll encounter obstacles that make prosperity feel like a battle. If you believe you don't deserve abundance, you'll create situations that drain resources just as they start to accumulate. Next, consider the recurring financial patterns in your life as dream loops. Dreams often contain recurring themes, scenarios, or characters. Your prosperity dream likely contains similar repetitive patterns. Do you consistently earn to a certain income level then hit a ceiling? Do opportunities appear and then dissolve before materializing? Do unexpected expenses always emerge when you start accumulating savings? Do you cycle between periods of abundance and scarcity? Do similar conflicts around money repeat in different relationships? These patterns aren't random external events happening to you. They're dream loops, recurring scenarios generated by your consciousness, often reflecting unresolved beliefs or emotions. In night dreams, recurring themes often point to unprocessed experiences or emotions. The same is true in your prosperity dream. Those financial patterns that keep repeating are signaling aspects of your relationship with abundance that remain unresolved. Then there are prosperity blocks, the dream barriers that seem to prevent financial flow. In dreams, you might encounter walls, locked doors, or impassable terrain that blocks your path. Your prosperity dream contains similar barriers. the promotion that never materializes despite excellent performance, the investments that consistently underperform, the clients who don't pay on time, the unexpected taxes or costs that drain resources, the income that never quite covers expenses. These blocks aren't random external obstacles. They're dream constructs, manifestations of internal conflicts, limiting beliefs, or unresolved emotions about prosperity. For instance, if part of you desires greater abundance, while another part fears responsibility or visibility that comes with wealth, this conflict might manifest as prosperity blocks, external circumstances that prevent the very success you consciously seek. Finally, examine the mechanics of financial expectation and manifestation in your prosperity dream. What you deeply expect tends to manifest in your financial reality, not your surface wishes or hopes, but your core expectations, the outcomes you fundamentally believe will occur. This isn't magical thinking, it's dream mechanics. It's dreams. Expectations shape experiences. When you expect a monster behind a door in a dream, that's typically what you find. Your prosperity dream works similarly. Your deep financial expectations tend to manifest often in surprisingly literal ways. Notice the difference between what you say you want financially and what you actually expect to happen. The gap between these often explains why desired prosperity doesn't materialize despite conscious intention and effort. For example, you might consciously desire financial abundance while unconsciously expecting struggle. Perhaps because what you witnessed growing up, or because you associate wealth with negative qualities you don't want to embody. This creates a divided consciousness, part of you moving toward prosperity, part moving away from it. The result isn't a clear manifestation of either abundance or scarcity, but rather a mixed, conflicted financial experience that reflects your divided expectations. Understanding your personal prosperity dream doesn't mean blaming yourself for financial challenges or dismissing systemic economic factors. Just as collective dreams create shared economic realities that affect everyone, your individual dream operates within that larger context. But recognizing the dreamlike nature of your personal prosperity experience gives you access to a different level of transformation, one that addresses the source of your financial reality rather than just its effects. In a night dream, lucidity begins with the recognition the moment you realize, I'm dreaming. This awareness doesn't end the dream, but it transforms your relationship to it. You're no longer just a character subject to the dream's whims. You become a conscious participant able to influence and direct the dream experience. The same is true in your prosperity dream. Becoming lucid in your financial reality starts with recognizing its dreamlike nature. Understanding that what you've experienced as fixed economic laws are actually fluid patterns responding to consciousness. This recognition doesn't magically eliminate financial challenges or instantly manifest millions in your bank account, but it does shift your relationship to prosperity in a fundamental way. You're no longer just a passive consumer of financial circumstances, but a conscious creator of your abundance reality. Let's explore how to recognize the financial limiting beliefs as dream constructs. Every limiting belief about prosperity is essentially a dream rule, a parameter you've consciously or unconsciously accepted about how money works for you. Some common examples are, I can only earn X amount per year, or I'll always struggle with debt, or I can have either financial success or fulfilling work but not both, or money causes problems in relationships, or I need to work harder than others to succeed financially. These beliefs aren't objective truths about economic reality. They're constructs in your prosperity dream, rules you've accepted, often unconsciously, that shape your financial experience. Identifying these beliefs requires self-observation. Notice your automatic thoughts when money opportunities arise. Pay attention to the stories you tell about your financial past and future. Listen to the reasons you give yourself for why certain kinds of prosperity are unavailable to you. Behind each limitation you experience is a belief that makes that limitation seem inevitable, natural, or necessary, even when it's actually a dream construct that could be changed. Once you identify a limiting belief, the next step is recognizing it as a dream construct rather than an objective truth. This recognition itself begins to dissolve the belief's power, just as recognizing this is a dream dissolves the apparent solidity of dream objects. Ask yourself, is this belief universally true? Are there people who operate with different beliefs and experience different results? What evidence have I filtered out that might contradict this belief? What would be possible if this limitation didn't exist? The moment of financial lucidity occurs when you experience directly the constructed nature of your prosperity limitations. When you see clearly that what you've taken as fixed economic laws are actually flexible patterns that respond to consciousness. This moment often arrives during financial turning points, when circumstances force you to question long-held assumptions about what is possible. Maybe you unexpectedly receive far more money than you thought possible. Maybe you witness someone achieving prosperity in ways that contradict your beliefs about how success works. Maybe you hit rock bottom financially and discover resources you didn't know you had. These moments create cracks in your prosperity dream, allowing you to glimpse the constructed nature of your financial reality. They are opportunities for lucidity, chances to recognize that your relationship with abundance has more to do with consciousness than with external circumstances alone. Why does trying to control prosperity create resistance? In night dreams, trying to control the dream from within the dream character's perspective often backfires. The dream pushes back against the character's efforts to manipulate it. But when you become lucid, recognizing yourself as the dreamer rather than just the character, the dream becomes responsive to your consciousness in a different way. The same principle applies to prosperity. When you try to control financial outcomes from within the perspective of a separate self struggling against external economic forces, you often encounter resistance. The more desperately you try to make money, hold on to it, or control its flow, the more it seems to elude you. This resistance isn't because prosperity is inherently scarce or because the universe is punishing your desires. It's because controlling prosperity from the perspective of the dream character creates tension with the deeper dreaming consciousness that's actually generating your financial reality. The abundance paradox is that letting go often allows receiving. This isn't about becoming passive or abandoning practical action. It's about shifting from the contracted state of trying to control outcomes to the expanded state of conscious creating. In a lucid dream, you don't need to force or control dream objects through willpower. You can transform the dream environment through intention and expectation because you're operating from the perspective of the dreamer, not just the character. Similarly, in your prosperity dream, the most powerful transformation comes not from trying harder to control the financial outcomes, but from shifting your perspective to recognize yourself as the dreamer of your prosperity reality. This shift moves you from scarcity consciousness, the sense of being a separate self competing for limited resources, to abundance consciousness, the recognition that prosperity flows from the same source as your awareness itself. From this perspective, prosperity is not something you achieve through struggle against external forces. It's something you align with by recognizing your role in creating it. The practical actions you take emerge from this alignment rather than effort alone. This alignment has practical effects. You begin to notice opportunities you previously filtered out. You make decisions from inspiration rather than fear. You take actions that feel resonant and flowing rather than forced. You relate to money as energy rather than as a scarce resource to be hoarded or a validation of your worth. The paradox is that by releasing the desperate need to control prosperity from the ego's perspective, you gain access to a more powerful kind of creation, one that works with the dream rather than against it. Once you recognize the dreamlike nature of your prosperity reality, you can begin to work with it consciously, engineering your financial experience through the principles that govern dreams rather than through effort alone. This isn't about replacing practical action with magical thinking. It's about addressing the source of your prosperity experience, the consciousness from which your financial reality emerges, rather than just manipulating its effects. Let's explore how to reprogram your prosperity dream consciously. In night dreams, the environment responds to the dreamer's consciousness, specifically to deep expectations, beliefs, and emotional states. Your prosperity dream works the same way. To change your financial reality, you need to address these deeper layers of consciousness rather than just changing your behaviors. Start with identifying the prosperity reality you genuinely desire. Not what you think you should want or what others expect you to pursue, but what feels authentically aligned with your values and purpose. This isn't just about setting financial goals, it's about clarifying the quality of relationship you want with abundance. Do you want prosperity that comes through joy or through struggle? Through collaboration or competition? Through creative expression or strategic calculation? The specific numbers matter less than the consciousness you want to embody in your relationship with prosperity. Clarifying this desired consciousness is the first step in dream engineering. Next, examine the gap between your desired prosperity consciousness and your current financial reality. What beliefs, expectations, or emotional patterns create dissonance with the abundance you desire? For instance, if you desire prosperity that flows easily but currently experience financial struggle, what beliefs can make struggle seem necessary? If you want collaborative abundance but experience competitive scarcity, what expectations maintain that pattern? Dream engineering involves working directly with these underlying patterns rather than just changing your actions on the surface. How do you work with dream physics instead of physical effort? In dreams, transformation happens through shifts in consciousness, through recognition, intention, and expectation rather than through force or control. Your prosperity dream responds to the same principles. Rather than trying to make prosperity happen through effort alone, focus on recognition, becoming aware of the beliefs, expectations, and perceptual filters creating your current financial reality. Release, letting go of the patterns that create dissonance with your desired prosperity consciousness. And resonance, aligning your consciousness with the quality of abundance you wish to experience. This approach works with dream physics, the responsiveness of reality to consciousness, rather than relying solely on physical effort or strategic action. For example, if you notice a recurring pattern of financial scarcity, rather than just working harder or implementing new strategies, you might first of all recognize the belief creating this pattern. Perhaps there's never enough, or I have to struggle to survive. And then secondly, release the emotional charge around this belief through practices that create spaciousness and presence. And third, cultivate resonance with a different quality of consciousness, perhaps gratitude or joy for existing resources or a sense of trust in life's ability to provide. This inner work doesn't replace practical action, it transforms the consciousness from which your actions emerge, which in turn changes the quality and results. Emotional resonance is the key to prosperity manifestation in the dream model. In dreams, emotional states create environments. Anxiety creates threatening dreamscapes. Joy creates expansive ones. Fear creates constraints. Trust creates support. Your prosperity dream follows the same pattern. Your emotional relationship with abundance, whether characterized by trust or anxiety, appreciation or grasping, joy or resentment, creates the corresponding financial environment. This is why focusing on emotional resonance is so powerful in transforming your prosperity reality. By deliberately cultivating the emotional state that resonates with your desired relationship with abundance, you create a consciousness field that attracts corresponding circumstances. This isn't about forcing positive feelings or suppressing authentic emotions. It's about recognizing that your emotional state is not just a reaction to circumstances, but a creative force that shapes them. Practices that help cultivate emotional resonance with prosperity include gratitude for existing resources and opportunities, appreciation for the abundance already flowing through your life, celebration of others' prosperity without comparison or envy, trust in life's ability to provide what you truly need, joy in using resources in aligned ways, and peace with your current financial situation even as you create change. These emotional states aren't just psychological responses, they're vibrational frequencies that shape your prosperity dream at a fundamental level. Pattern interrupts are powerful tools for financial transformation. Dream loops, recurring financial patterns, maintain themselves through momentum and habit. Interrupting these patterns creates space for new possibilities to emerge. Effective pattern interrupts might include making unexpected financial decisions that contradict your usual patterns, responding differently to familiar money situations, changing your language about prosperity, consciously noticing evidence that contradicts your limiting beliefs, taking inspired action that aligns with your desired prosperity consciousness, relating to money in ways that feel unfamiliar but resonant. These interrupts work by breaking the conscious continuity of your prosperity dream, creating openings for new patterns to establish themselves. The key is consistency, not in the sense of rigid discipline, but in the sense of repeatedly orienting your consciousness toward your desired prosperity reality until it becomes your new normal. Remember that in dreams, what you place your attention on develops and elaborates. The same is true in your prosperity dream. By consistently directing your attention toward the evidence, feelings, and experiences that align with your desired relationship with abundance, you strengthen those elements in your financial reality. While your personal prosperity dream shapes your individual financial reality, we all participate in a collective economic dream. Shared beliefs, agreements, and patterns that create the larger financial environment we navigate. Understanding this collective dimension of the prosperity dream helps you navigate it more consciously and align with abundance currents rather than struggling against them. Moving between prosperity dimensions involves shifting your resonance with different economic realities. Within the collective prosperity field exist multiple dimensions or frequencies, different economic realities operating by different rules. These aren't separate physical locations, but different consciousness fields you can tune into through resonance. For instance, there's a prosperity dimension where value emerges primarily through competition and scarcity. Another where abundance flows through collaboration and shared value creation. Another where prosperity emerges through authentic self-expression and creative contribution. These dimensions exist simultaneously within the collective economic field. The one you experience depends on which frequency your consciousness is tuned into, which prosperity dream you're participating in. Moving between these dimensions doesn't necessarily require you changing your external circumstances. It involves shifting your consciousness to resonate with a different prosperity frequency. The shift happens through recognition, choice, alignment, and action. You become aware of which prosperity dimension you're currently in. You decide which prosperity dimension you prefer to participate in. You adjust your consciousness, your beliefs, expectations, perceptions, and emotional states to resonate with your chosen prosperity dimension, and then you take steps that align with the rules of your chosen prosperity dimension rather than the one you're leaving behind. This dimensional shifting explains why some people thrive in economic environments where others struggle. They're not just implementing better strategies, they're operating in a different prosperity dimension governed by different rules. The dream bubbles that create and destroy wealth operate through collective consciousness fields, shared beliefs that inflate or deflate economic value. Economic bubbles from tulip mania to the dot-com boom to cryptocurrency surges demonstrate the dreamlike nature of collective value creation. These bubbles aren't anomalies in an otherwise rational economic system. They're naked revelations of how the entire economy actually works through collective dream agreements about value. Understanding this dreamlike mechanism allows you to navigate economic waves more consciously, not by trying to time markets perfectly, but by recognizing when value is being created primarily through inflating belief rather than through genuine utility or innovation. This awareness helps you make more conscious choices about which prosperity bubbles to participate in and when to shift your engagement. Beyond navigating existing economic waves, you can also align with prosperity currents in your collective dream through conscious participation. Rather than seeing yourself as a separate individual competing with an economic system, recognize yourself as a co-creator of that system through which your consciousness and actions work. The collective prosperity dream isn't separate from your individual dream. It's the shared field in which your personal dream operates. By consciously participating in creating the economic reality you wish to experience, you simultaneously transform your personal prosperity experience and contribute to shifting the collective dream. This might include supporting economic models that align with your values, or creating ventures that embody your desired prosperity consciousness, engaging with money in ways that reflect the relationship with abundance you wish to see in the world, collaborating with others who share your prosperity vision. This isn't about idealism, it's practical prosperity creation through conscious dream participation. By aligning your economic activities with prosperity consciousness you wish to experience and share, you strengthen that frequency in both your personal financial reality and the collective field. We've explored how prosperity operates like a dream, responsive to consciousness, shaped by belief, and more fluid than it appears. Now let's consider the ultimate prosperity insight that emerges from this. The most profound shift happens when you recognize that you're not merely the character seeking wealth in the prosperity dream, but the dreamer creating the entire experience. From the character's perspective, prosperity appears external, something to pursue, achieve, or accumulate. The character strategizes, struggles, and strives to obtain something it believes it lacks. But the dreamer's perspective, prosperity is an expression of consciousness itself, a manifestation of the same awareness that creates all experience. From this view, abundance isn't something you get, it's something you recognize yourself to be. This recognition doesn't mean money magically appears without action, but it fundamentally transforms your relationship with financial reality. Instead of approaching prosperity from need, separation, and lack, you engage with it from wholeness, connection, and creative power. This shift brings liberation from prosperity anxiety, the constant worry about having enough, doing enough, being enough in financial terms. When you recognize yourself as the dreamer, rather than just the character, you see that your value and security don't depend on external circumstances. Your essential nature transcends the fluctuations of the prosperity dream, even as you continue to participate in it. This liberates you from the exhausting cycle of seeking validation and security through financial achievement. You can pursue prosperity not from desperate need, but from creative enjoyment and desire to contribute. This liberation changes how you engage with money practically. You make decisions from inspiration rather than fear. You take risks from a place of trust rather than anxiety. You use resources as tools for expression and contribution rather than as protection against imagined catastrophe. The shift from future-oriented present prosperity consciousness is another key transformation. Most people treat prosperity as a future condition, something they'll eventually achieve if they implement the right strategies. This creates a perpetual state of not enough. But when you recognize the dreamlike nature of prosperity, you understand that abundance is primarily a present experience, a way of relating to life right now, rather than a future achievement. This is the principle of living from the end, experiencing the consciousness of prosperity now, rather than waiting until external circumstances match your desires. So what might your life look like if you fully embrace the understanding that prosperity is a dream you're creating rather than an external reality you're navigating? You might find yourself making decisions based on resonance and inspiration rather than fear and scarcity. You might notice financial opportunities you previously filtered out because they didn't match your expectations of how prosperity should look. You might experience synchronicities and lucky coincidences that accelerate your abundance in unexpected ways. You might discover a sense of ease and flow in your relationship with money. Most importantly, you might find that prosperity becomes less about what you have and more about how you live. Less a measure of accumulation and more an expression of your authentic being. This is the ultimate prosperity hack, recognizing that you don't need to break into abundance from outside because you are the dreaming consciousness from which all abundance flows. Your financial circumstances may still fluctuate. You'll still make practical decisions about money. You'll still engage with the collective economic dream we all share, but you'll do so from a different level of awareness, not as a separate self struggling in a fixed economic reality, but as the dreaming consciousness creating your prosperity experience moment by moment. And from this awareness, you will discover that true wealth isn't what you possess, but what you express. The boundless creativity, connection, and contribution that become available when you recognize yourself as the dreamer of the prosperity dream. The question isn't whether you'll achieve prosperity someday. The question is, how consciously will you dream your abundance now? You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.